He's a stand-up comic, a star of countless classic comedy movies, and former writer and Emmy-nominated cast member on Saturday Night Live. He's also become a crusader for free speech and the First Amendment. He's got a fascinating new memoir that touches on this very subject and much more. You Can Do It. Speak Your Mind, America. It hits bookstores September 24th. I sat down with him recently here in studio to talk about the book, his storied career, as well as his Catholic faith. Here's part one of my exclusive interview with Rob Schneider. You Can Do It opens with the most unbelievable intro I think I may have ever read. And I've read a lot of intros. And here's what it touches on. Filipino slurs, assorted profanities, gambling with Norm Macdonald, and Father Chad Rippinger. How do you put all that together, Rob?
I'm a new Catholic, so I'm coming at this in as an older gentleman who also has had a wonderful gift of these beautiful children. And I have to be the guardian, and to be parents, not friends, but parents to these beautiful kids. And you want to raise them in something that is meaningful. And the thing that constantly is that you will hear about, like whether it's the former Soviet Union, whether it's North Korea, or whether it's China, is that godless tyranny. There is a hopelessness, and I will say that. There's a sadness and an emptiness that children now are feeling, that these young Generation Z has, and it is because of a godless society. So there is a hopelessness in that, and I really, really feel that if they could come closer to God and realize this great gift, and to be the reflection that God calls us to be, God's reflection on us.
Well, somewhere in You Can Do It, I wrote this down the other night when I was reading the book. This is all a test for us, you write.
Yeah.
Unlike other belief systems and religions, say cancel culture, for example, that call upon their believers to hate and destroy their enemies, ours calls upon us to love our enemies. How is all of this a test, Rob?
It's the same reason that God put the apple in Eden, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, he could have made it he could come down and show his hand right now, but that wouldn't be loving. What's loving is to push your kids to not just watch TV and videos, and you can give them pizza all day, but if you love your children like God loves us, he wants to challenge us. He wants us to bring out our best, and he wants us to come to him of our own volition. And I think these tests are very loving. There's no accident that as soon as our kids are old enough, I don't know if we educate them correctly, but we push them to do it so that they can be challenged, and that's beautiful. Yeah. That's the most beautiful gift you can give.
Tell me about this revival of faith. I mean, I know your dad was Jewish, your mother was Filipina.
Yeah, so my mother was Catholic, so when I went to the old Bill Maher joke, when I went to confession, I bring my attorney. Father, this is Mr. Cohen, he'll be answering all our questions. It was always there. I mean, Jesus only lets you go so far before he comes like, aha, okay, that's enough.
I'm coming.
Yeah. And I do feel like you have, anytime there is as we all sense it now, there's a rise in evil in the world. Mm-hmm. It's not going to win, but it's being allowed to happen now, and it's purposeful. And it is we are some of the challenges that we're facing challenges in the family, we're facing challenges in the schools that our kids go to, we're facing challenges by our leaders. And how do we rise to that? And how do we bring out our best? How do we protect our children? And how do we, now, congratulations, our nation's having problems. Now we can really decide what kind of nation we want, what kind of family we want, community, and what do we want how do we want to reflect God's love to the world and to each other?
You say it in the book that there was an organized evil, I imagine connected in some way to the COVID shutdowns and the mandates, but an organized evil you talk about that presaged this conversion. What was that organized evil? What did it look like?
It is a power authoritarian grab, and like all power grabs, they become corrupt. And so what happened was, it was a continuation of trying to get more and more, and whether it's the pharmaceutical companies buying off every Republican, every Democrat in Congress, not just the federal level, but the state level, you really feel there is a crunch on freedom and that individual liberty, and it's evil. And I would say that, you have to call that evil by its name. It is demonic, It is the lies, and the lies are coming, and it's a rise in evil. And as M. Scott Peck said to me many, many years ago, the great author of The Road Less Traveled, he said, if the devil exists, he's saying, don't make waves. Just don't become part of this. And I think it behooves us, and it asks us, and it demands us right now to make waves, to stand up for what's right. And this is a great opportunity that we have. So along with this Marxist communism, and communism is really just an attack on Christianity. Yeah. That's what Karl Marx did. This was an assault on it, and he did group these ideas to go after. And what we're seeing now is a real attack on the family unit. There's an attack on mothers, fathers, women, children. And this is evil, and we have to call this what it is, and we need to be, it's a spiritual warfare that we're in. And if we don't acknowledge that, we're not going to be able to fight it sufficiently.
In your parish of Our Lady of Perpetual Help, you went to convert classes before. I mean, you didn't just come back to, you actually went through the process.
I was the oldest by 47 years in the class, and I was with my daughter, and it was beautiful. And the idea of coming at it from a new Catholic is really is beautiful, because, like the priest was talking about last week at Mass, the idea of his followers, for Jesus's followers, were saying, like, they were weirded out by this idea of, this is my flesh, right. This is my blood. Yeah. So this is something that, like, a lot of Catholics take for granted. But, like, well, this is just no. But this isn't. Can you imagine his followers say, take this in memory of me. Yeah. This is my blood. And someone go, like, I don't know, that's a little weird. So I really feel that these ideas and this stuff is fresh, and it really and it's beautiful. And what it talks about is the sacrifice and love of this. And a beautiful thing that my father pastor said to me, which just made me tear up. He said, talking about salvation and talking about the sacrifice and what we need to sacrifice now, because speaking up and talking and protecting our families and our nation is important now. And he talked about the sacrifice of Jesus, and he said, even the cold breeze that the baby Jesus felt the night he was born is enough suffering for your salvation. And I was like, wow, how beautiful is that? How much more so, what does it cost to risk your career or potential job when you think about what we need to protect for our children? And our children are under attack now. Yeah. And this society demands that we stand up and be courageous.
I saw you talking to our pal Tucker recently about the power of the rosary. Yeah, how has that? Yes. Is this a new devotion? Wow,
I need this.
Look at that rosary.
I need this. This was just given to me.
Look at that, with the St. Benedict medal and all.
Yes.
Where was this a devotion? Did your mother pray the rosary? Did your family pray the rosary?
No, my mother didn't, but Patricia and I did it the other night. And when it was a lot of worldly pressure and tension, and it all dissipated so powerfully. The idea, because people talk about prayer, like, you got to pray, and we get our prayers, but it's powerful. Yeah. I felt the prayers of many people, but specifically when you pray with another person, somebody that love, and the greatest gift that Jesus has given to me is my beautiful wife, Patricia, and those gorgeous kids. And we prayed together, and I felt a sense of peace for days. I mean, for the next day. And you have to know that is really powerful. And I never really felt that before.
Will this refound faith at all change the Stand-Up act? I've seen your Stand-Up act. Yes. It's a little, look.
I know.
It's closer to Carlin than, Mother Teresa.
It is. I talked to my priest about it, and I said, Father, I have a Stand-Up act, and it's pretty dirty. He said, well, you may have to think about it. I'll give an Irish voice just because it sounds better for that routine. He said, well, you may have to think about that, young man. And I said, you have to do it the right thing. And he said, I said, but it's pretty funny. Well, but you're either serving the Lord or you're serving the world. And I said, yeah, you know the right choice to make. I said, you're right. I said, I don't know if I'll be able to give as much money to the church. And he said, you got to make the people laugh, Robbie. You've got to make them laugh, Robbie. If you don't, that's your gift.
Well, if you're asking my opinion, Rob, you can do it.
Oh,
you can do it. But no, look, I think it's a comedy club. People, there's a certain segment of the audience that is going to expect some edge.
I am
Venal.
changing it. Thank you. I am changing it, and I
You
do have
are.
to make an adaptation. But at the same time, I think that it's important to, and that's the thing about Catholicism now, and why the outreach and why there's such growth right now, is because we have to reach out to everyone.
Yeah.
We need to bring people to the church, and for whatever reason is happening now. I don't know why I'm been thrust into this place, but I said turn over to God, whatever I'm supposed to do, then please let me know, and so it's important to reach out and bring people to the faith.
Well, and let's talk about the role of the comedian in that. I mean, obviously, priest has his role, laymen have their role. What's the role of the comedian in society today? You spend a lot of time, and you can do it, talking about that critical role. And I've said it for years, the last truth tellers left are comedians right now.
Well, I would say just Christianity was this subversive underground thing where it's like, hey, there's this.
The way.
Yeah, did you know about this? And I remember the first time I was exposed to Christianity was in born-again Christianity when I was 13. And I remember being around these people go, why are these people so happy? What do they got? What's happening with them? That was an interest in it. What stand-up and what comedy has the ability to do in the same way, to subvert people through laughter, to bring them to a point of reason, to a point of rationale, and a point of forgiveness. And I didn't realize that last part until recently. And when I wrote this book, a lot of it was still very angry about, and I have to be careful about that because the real tenet is forgiveness. And forgiveness isn't just for the other person, it's for yourself. You have to let go, and you have to, and I didn't understand the concept, just like I didn't understand the concept of how powerful prayer was. I didn't understand the concept of turning it over to God. I just thought these things are just said. I didn't realize the power behind it. It liberates you. And I think that good laughter, jokes can liberate people.
But there became a point. Look, you've got Richard Pryor, and you've got Carlin, and you've got all these great Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, yourself.
Soothsayers.
Well, people who are looking, you mentioned it, in the rearview mirror of the culture.
Yeah.
So that you're kind of casting back on the people what they're living through. And yeah, they're laughing at it, but they're also internalizing it in a different way. But when did comedians start throwing rocks, not at the powerful, but at the people?
What happens is there's this idea that somehow they're, and I not to, the Democratic Party is not alone in this, but the idea that somehow they are the trodden upon, that they are the ones in power. And so they're the ones that are really attacking the people, and they're attacking freedom. And that is something that it's an inverse, and it is a critical error on their part. And if they lose the election, it'll be because of that. So the idea was, and the attack during COVID was to attack small businesses, and it was for real authoritarian. You have to say these are bad people. When Gavin Newsom closes churches and keeps open strip clubs and weed stores and liquor stores, but closes the church, at that point you have to go, thank you for being so openly honest and hostile towards God and towards people, that you would take away this solace that people needed at that terrible time. The thing about Satan, the thing about the devil, and the thing about evil is it, at its core, it has to expose itself, and it has to. And so you see it, and you go, okay, well, that's evil.
Right.
So it makes it more obvious. And in these times, which I think we have a rise of evil, and it's not going to go away anytime soon, just like it happened 100 years ago in Europe. I will say this: the hope for the world is the United States, and that's why it's important that we've got to draw the line here, because there will be no Marshall Plan for the United States. There's no Marines from some other country going to land here. There will be no food drop. This is it. This is the final stand, not just for the United States, but for the world, for freedom. So whether problems we have, whatever, we cannot let this current administration continue to undermine us and make it more dangerous here, so that we can allow this Marxist regime to take over. And believe me, that's a real threat. I don't think it'll win.
You know what? I was stunned to read that you almost left stand-up, or you weren't going to go back to it. And then you spoke to Chris Rock.
Chris Rock was, because Adam Sandler was always telling me to do it, but he loves me, and he's my brother, and he's just like, he's worried about me financially. He said, you should go back at them. But when Chris Rock says, he told me, he said, you could be the best at this. And And I said, yeah, but I don't even, thank you, but I don't even know what I would talk about. And he said, just talk about what you talk to me every morning. So he's one of those wonderful, real liberals who supports freedom, supports ideas, and supports this, and has a great faith for what this country offers, which is opportunity. And he really is one of the masters. He's the guy who changed modern comedy. So I really took him seriously. And I said, I don't know if I could do it. And then he came up to me and he nudged me. He knew how I engaged. He said, you know what I think? I said, what? I think you don't like money. And I went like, all right. So there's money. He said, yeah, there's money. What are you, stupid? What are you? And so thank you, Chris, for that. And I will say it's reopened my career and it's opened my eyes and it's got me to meet many people to make me realize that, like, you know, the problem of New York and Los Angeles is you can get caught in your own echo chamber and you don't realize the ramifications for the, you know, the garbage that's cranked out in the liberal media that doesn't represent most of this country. It doesn't help most of the country.
Stay tuned for the full World Over interview with Rob on Thursday, October 3rd. We'll play the whole thing for you, and it's really a hoot.